Former football player in college, Florida A&M football player by the name of Jonathan Ferrell, was involved in a terrible car accident. His car was so badly smashed he had to get out of the back window, and he was understandably in a panic, and he went and found somebody's house, knocked on the door, and a woman answered the door thinking that it might be her husband who had come home, and when she saw that it wasn't, she got scared. She slammed the door, called 911. At that point, Jonathan Ferrell, we don't know if he was injured or how badly injured he was. He went and waited somewhere until the cops showed up. Great, finally the cops showed up. So as soon as they did, he went to go wave them down saying, "Help me, help me." And they shot him. Now, he is a guy who was approaching them in the beginning, and they decided to use a taser. Even after he was tased, they decided, nah, let's shoot him anyway. He's dead. The guy who shot him was Officer Randall Carrick from the Charlotte, North Carolina. In the beginning, the police said that the initial encounter was, quote, appropriate and lawful. Now, it's been a while, and they've changed their tune a little bit. I'm not sure if they meant that it was appropriate and lawful in the first place, or if they meant just the tasering was appropriate and lawful, but the shooting was not. But right now, they've added clarity to that statement, and they say the investigation showed that subsequent shooting of Mr. Ferrell was excessive. So at least the police chief there, Rodney Moore, Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Chief Rodney Moore, saying that it was excessive. In fact, they have now arrested the police officer involved. They say Carrick did not have a lawful right to discharge his weapon during the encounter, and that they have charged him with voluntary manslaughter. Now, what does voluntary manslaughter mean? It means, quote, killing without malice using excessive force in exercising imperfect self-defense. Those are technical terms to describe what happened if you're charging somebody with voluntary manslaughter. Now, of course, it's a tragedy because someone was shot and killed when they were just looking for help. It's also a tragedy based on our assumptions in this country. Now, I'm not just talking about racial assumptions, although that seems to have played a role here. We don't know for sure, but let me frame it to you this way, and let me start with gender assumptions, okay? Now, if it was a woman who had been involved in a terrible accident, and she went and knocked on the door of a neighbor, do you think the neighbor would have instinctively slammed a door in her face? It could happen. It could be that, hey, look, it's just someone I don't know, and they said that the pounding on the door was described as viciously pounding on the door. Now, if it was a woman, could it have been described as desperately pounding on the door? Another car accident victim. Desperate seems more accurate than vicious, right? They need help. They came to you for help. So let's say that it was a woman, and let's say the neighbor did slam the door and called 911. When she started running towards the police, do you think the police's first reaction would have been taser, second reaction would have been a lethal shooting? Could have been, but honestly, I would be shocked. So first of all, probably the most relevant assumption is based on gender rather than race. Because if she's a woman probably of any race, I don't think she gets killed like this. Now, second of all, let's keep it real. He was a football player. I mean, he's not a huge guy, but he was, you know, I guess younger, and there's certain assumptions about young males, and maybe he was a little larger than the average guy. Maybe that scares a woman who answers the door. Maybe it scares a cop when he sees him running towards him. And then third of all, you have, of course, African-American issue. Look, I could be wrong, and we don't know what's in Randall Carrick's heart, and right now, that officer is described as, quote, devastated by what has happened, okay? So we don't know for sure, but I would be surprised if it was a white guy running towards them saying, help me, that their first instinct would have been, this is danger, let me tase the guy and then shoot him. So, and look, if it was the first time this had happened in America, you could rightfully say, oh, come on now, you know, why do you have to bring gender, race, whatever it might be into this? But look, the reason we do is because we want to see what's going on so we can fix it. This isn't the first time. Look at the context. We've told you in the past about these other cases. Recently, there was a 60-year-old who was shot in Florida in his own driveway, Roy Middleton. He was grabbing for something inside his car. You know why? It was his car in his driveway, and he was getting something outside of it. And a neighbor saw him, and even though it's his neighbor, they were freaked out. Oh, there's a black guy reaching into a car. Cops came, they're like, oh my God, there's a black guy reaching into a car. And when he turned around to face the cops, they shot him. In fact, they shot him, 11 times, I believe. He's okay, believe it or not. He's not okay. He was hit in the leg several times, and he's in the hospital, of course, but he didn't die. He said bullets were flying everywhere. It was like a firing squad. You want to ask the guy a question first? Hey, what are you doing? Oh, look, this is my car. This is my home, right? Now, look, this is not the first time that's even happened. 23-year-old Robbie Tolan was shot near Houston, Texas, in a nice neighborhood called Bel Air, Texas. Same thing. His car, his driveway. Well, it was a black guy. They assumed he stole the car. Come on, guys. I mean, like, for those of you who think, no, there's no racial problems in America, it's all fixed, that liberals are making it up or African Americans are whining about it. Well, if you kept getting shot in your own driveway, you might complain about it too. I know I would, right? Now, if you were involved in a horrible car accident and you're going to your neighbors or you're going to the cops for help and they, shun you, and again, I'm not blaming the woman. I get it. It's a random strange guy in the middle of the night and she gets freaked out. I get it, right? But if you're the cops, you have a responsibility.